The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network.
Golf Talk Live is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. Here's Andrew to tell you more about our sponsors.
iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, including reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, all designed to help you improve from tee to green. Welcome to Golf Talk Live with your host, Ted Odorico. Join Ted each week as he speaks with some of the best in golf. This week's special guest will join us a bit later. But first up is another great discussion on Coach's Corner. So let's introduce tonight's Coach's Corner panel.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Season 13 of Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and we got a great show for you tonight. Joined here by a couple of great guys. The two Johns are joining me tonight on the Coach's Corner panel. And then a little bit later on, I'm going to be joined by Bob Forman. He's going to be talking about forearms and wrists tonight, what we can do to get those strengthened up a little bit to help us with our golf game. And then finally, I'm going to be speaking with tonight's featured guest, Morne Botha. He is the CEO of Jondo USA. He'll be joining me on the latter part of the show. On that note, let me introduce the guys on the Coach's Corner panel. Don't forget, if you want to tune into this episode or any of the other episodes, you can go to the iGolf Sports channel or you can go to Spotify.com. The audio version also is available at Spreaker.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe on any of the channels when you're there so you'll see and listen to any new episodes as they drop weekly. All right, so as I mentioned, I got a couple of great guys, two Johns joining me here on the Coach's Corner panel. John Hughes, first up, PGA Master Professional and the past president of the North Florida PGA section and recipient of the 2013 PGA of America's Professional Development Award. And he was also in 2009 and 2023, the North Florida PGA Teacher and Coach of the Year, and as a Golf Digest Best in State Instructor from 2023 to present. He's also senior contributing editor and top 25 instructor with Golf Tips Magazine. Also, the other John Decker, he's a director of instruction at the Medallion Club in Columbus, Ohio. And he too is a senior contributing editor and top 25, instructor with Golf Tips Magazine. He was also the 2015 Southern Ohio Teacher of the Year. And he's the author of two books, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game, and Fairways to Heaven, One Shot at a Time. And he's also available for public speaking upon request. So, guys, welcome to Coach's Corner.
Thank you, Ted.
Thanks, Ted.
All right. Pardon me. Excuse me. So we're going to talk about, I actually had somebody ask me this the other day, and I thought, boy, this would be something. We haven't talked about this before. We've touched on a few things. Let me just grab a, forgive me, guys.
I'm going to go for the heavy stuff then.
Yeah, he's going to the heavy stuff. So yeah, no, I'm just doing the light stuff here. I got too much talking to do tonight. So I had somebody ask me the other day, and they said, what are some of the hardest or most difficult shots that are out there, and what are causing them? Some of the most common swing flaws, if you will. Poor posture is certainly affecting balance and rotation. Over the top swing path certainly leads to slices and poor weight transfer, that sort of thing. Open club face and sort of hanging back, if you will. And we're going to talk about a few of those tonight. There's many other things that we could discuss, but I thought we would bring that in. So I'm going to start in the order I introduced you. So Mr. Hughes, I'm going to do you guys by your last name. So poor posture. First off, what is it when we're talking about posture in the golf swing? And what are your recommendations? How do you go about fixing somebody that you clearly identified as having some poor posture in their swing?
So first off, JD, John, good to see you again. Looking forward to this time together. Again, Ted, thanks for the opportunity as always. Let's take it in a layman's term. Posture. What most people believe is posture is somebody walking down the street and they're all slumped over, or they can't hold themselves upright, or when it comes to dancing, the person isn't just nice and erect and very statuesque. For the golfer, we think of posture A couple of different ways. The first way I would describe it is where your body is hinging. Shoulders are hinging, hips are hinging, knees are hinging. And to the layperson, you're looking at that and probably asking the question subliminally, can I tip that person over? And if you can tip them over, then we got a postural problem. But it goes beyond that. It goes into balance. So when I'm with my clients, I'm not necessarily using the term posture. I'm using the term balance quite a bit because without static balance, we can't stand, we can't sit, we can't do a lot of things. Golf and every other movement requires dynamic balance, and you've got to set yourself up for that to happen. Unlike other sports where you're reacting, and dynamic balance and posture just happen. It happens organically based on how your body's built and what it can and can't do.
Mm.
So I'm always asking my golfers from the waist down, can you feel your feet flat? Can you feel them 50-50 as a starting point? And can you feel your right side and your left side 50-50? Most people can't do that. And when I have them shut their eyes, all of a sudden they have to feel it. And they have this wow feeling. Wow, I didn't know I was over tilted this way or tilted that way. It's just a reference point to start. And from there, if I can get them to gently hinge their knees, more bouncy, can I get them to reach down as if they're holding a golf club from the hips, just a simple bend? Then all of a sudden, we're going to create better balance, which in turn creates the better posture. The other thing I think that affects posture right away that most people discredit is where you're aiming. And what I see is that when somebody's aiming really hard right for the right hander, they'll get a more slumped posture. And as soon as we get them aim better, all of a sudden they start standing taller or what is perceived to be better posture. Uh, that's why I'm always starting with aim. But as far as posture goes, I think if the average person thought of it as balance and started it as balance and then hinged, not overly aggressive or not textbook, let's sit down on a bar stool or lean over a bar stool. Just set up athletically and comfortably in a balanced position. You'll set your posture up pretty well for almost any shot you'll hit.
Yeah, great points. I think a lot of times I think people try to force themselves into a certain position, trying to arch the back a certain way or unarch or what have you. I see a lot of people, they've been taught for years to feel like they're sitting down in a bar stool and they're sticking their back end out a little bit too much. And the next thing you know, they've got this big curve in their spine and they're not really in an athletic or comfortable position. So you have to be very relaxed. I agree with everything you said. I think it's a process that can be a lot simpler. All of our body styles and types are different from one another. So what might work for you might not work for JD and may not work for me, just given the differences in our sizes and shapes
And
and
that's
so
why I
forth.
start with balance because everybody can balance. You don't have to buy in any methodology for posture.
Yeah,
Find a good balance and you're going to find your good posture. It's going to work whether you're big, tall, any shape or size.
I think that's some sound advice and well said. I think I'm going to go with JD as well. I think that I just found a new way to
Sorry,
alleviate
John.
the two.
No,
No, I think this is a
I get
good way
called
to
JD all the time.
alleviate the two Johns. So I'm going to call you JD from now on. Then we'll know which one we're dealing with. So for this one here, what I want you to talk about is a lot of people have sort of that over the top swing path, if you will. They get to, where they feel like they're getting a pretty good backswing, but then for something seems to disconnect and might be because of balance, could be some other things. And the next thing you know, for right-handed golfers, that right shoulder comes popping out and they're cutting across the ball and all kinds of funky things happen. So first off, talk about what we're really meaning when we say over the top, and what are some things that cause that first off, and then also what are some things that we can do to help golfers out there to sort of correct that and get them swinging on the right path.
Well, Ted, thanks again for having me on the show. And John, as always, I'm enjoying, always learn something every time I'm on with you. The over the top, the first thing that I do is, let me explain what over the top is. First of all, it's when the club shaft is coming in too steeply, and it can be caused by a lot of different things. But the number one reason why I see people come over the top, and the number one reason that when I was working at Grand Cypress, is because of an open club face. The club face gets open, and there's a lot of different ways, but it usually starts with the grip. Sometimes you can have a good grip and roll the club back, or you get the clubs too far to the inside, and when the club goes inside, it's like a rope swing. If there's a rope swing and there's a tire and you're sitting on that tire, and I swing it to the right, you're going to go around and you're going to come all the way back around to my left. You're not going to come straight back. The golf swing's the same way. So if you go way inside, the club's going to come way outside. And normally this happens because of the open club face. An open club face is going to cause the ball for a right-handed golfer to go to the right. So if your ball is going to go to the right, then instinctively you're going to start swinging to the left. And so if I can get someone's hands on the club properly and get the grip right, and they have an over-the-top swing, and it is because of their club face getting open, they are going to eventually, it might happen in the first lesson, it might happen in the second lesson, but eventually they're going to start hitting dead pulls where they're going to hit these really solid shots and the ball is going to go way left of the target. Then we change their swing path. If you try to change your swing path and you're coming over the top and you have not addressed the club face, you are going to shank it. You are going to have all kinds of problems. So you don't put the cart before the horse. You must have the club face correct before you ever change your swing path. So if a person is swinging 30 yards left of their target, I want their ball going 30 yards left of the target. I don't want their swing going 30 yards left and their ball going 60 yards to the right. So I want their ball to go where their swing is going. If they're swinging to the right of their target, then I want their ball to go to the right of the target. So I always want the ball flight to match the divot, and that is directly related to the club face. So get the club face correct. And I would recommend to all of you once a year, and Jack Nicklaus used to do this every year with Jack Grout when he was on the PGA Tour, is have a lesson at the beginning of the season. Go to your local PGA golf professional and say, I want you to look at my grip. I just want you to look at my grip. Get that. It could be a 15-minute lesson, a 30-minute lesson. Get your grip right, and you're going to start getting your swing path right. You will instinctively do that. There are other reasons why you can come over the top. Obviously, uneven lies, the way you're built, if you're using your upper body too much. There's a lot of reasons, but it all goes back to the club face. And so get that right, and you'll be able to solve that problem.
Well said. And you know, there's always, I think one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of amateurs or the trap that they fall into is they don't really isolate what the cause is. And you can't come up with a solution if you don't know what's causing the problem. So they're trying to rework everything else. I've watched people, it's interesting, I've watched people on the range, and I have to snicker a little bit to myself when I say this, but you know, I will see them and they'll have one very simple thing that needs to be adjusted. And I'll stand back and I'll watch them, and I will see them literally rebuild their entire swing in a matter of 10 minutes. And what might have been a very simple fix that could have been just a minor tweak now becomes a major problem. And what are they doing? If they're working with somebody, they're going back and they're saying, hey, John, JD, I don't know what happened. I was up at the range. I was hitting some pretty good shots. I started leaking a little bit to the right, or I was, pulling a little bit. So I made a few adjustments, and now it's all over the place. Well, now you're back to square one. You got to sit and figure out what are they doing. And then they just don't seem to understand that, there is a cause and effect, but you have to find out what is causing the issue that you're having and get to the root cause. It's, it just makes me laugh when I see people doing that, because I can just tell the wheels are turning and they're thinking, okay, well, if I do this, and then I see people opening, closing their stance, and I see them tilting more and, doing this, leaning this way, leaning that way. And it's just, next thing you know, there's about 40 things that they've just changed. And really, maybe it was just, as you said, it could have been just the grip. So just wanted to throw that in there. So for you guys tuning into the show, and those of you later on that'll tune into the show, you need to go and see your PGA professional and get things looked at properly. Don't try to monkey around with your swing yourself. Just get it dealt with. John, I want to come back to you, and we've been talking about balance and that. And another big problem that a lot of people have is a poor weight transfer. They don't seem to understand that you have to transfer your weight to some degree. Now, there's different ways. People have different ways of addressing that. But talk about typically, and as I mentioned very early on, when I was sort of going through some of the things we're going to discuss, is you see a lot of people hanging back, especially in the follow through, they're sort of falling back or hanging back, and they're not really transferring their weight properly. So what are some of the causes of that, and what can we do to help them do a better weight transfer?
So let's deal with the causes first. Probably at the very beginning level, why are you hanging back? Because intuitively your brain's saying, well, if I hang back, my club's going to open up and now the ball's going to fly high. Not necessarily true. Why did some other causes? Maybe you have an impairment that prohibits you from making that weight transfer and internal rotation around your spine, around your core. Most of the time when I see somebody who's hanging back, it's a combination of three things. It's they're trying to make the ball go up in the air intuitively. That's what they'll do is hang back. They're trying to add loft to the club at the same time, and that's the easier thing to do because they've been told not to flip their hands or whatever. And to John's point, that's a grip issue as well. The third thing is they don't know any better. They're not putting two and two together because they're so used to doing something intuitively and reactively that whether they're throwing a ball in baseball or football, or they're a hockey player and they're hitting a slap shot, or they're a basketball player and they're taking a jump shot, they're always moving forward. But because that ball's sitting still, they don't know any better. They're not thinking about that.
Yeah.
So one of the first things I get people to understand that are having a hard time conceptualizing and or from a coordination standpoint of view, make the weight shift is ask them if they're going to hit at the ball or hit through the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got to get them to hit through the ball. And in order for them to hit through the ball, they can't do it leaning back. They can't do it with an open club face. They can't do it because the ball's sitting still. They're going to have to make that move through, which in turn creates that weight shift. At the beginning, we don't care. I don't care. Is it a weight shift from the top first, from the bottom first? Just getting them to weight shift is key. If they can do it and show some coordination, then I'll typically tie everybody's hands behind their back and ask them to take their rear knee, their back knee, in my case, my right knee, and can I literally turn around my spine and get my right knee to touch my left knee?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden the light bulbs go off and they realize that a weight transfer starts at the beginning of the swing getting backwards because they have a very hard time from a standstill getting that over there. You'll always see somebody they got their hands behind them and they'll go back first to go forward. And all of a sudden the light bulbs go off. Combining, hey, it's got to be a through with what that feeling is. It's always been my go-to as a coach, unless there's a physical impairment that prevents somebody from doing that.
Right, and that's a great point because obviously with a lot of our veterans, we have some that have issues that deal with, and there's ways around that. There's ways of making modifications to accommodate, whether it's a no limb or something that they're having to deal with. So that's a great point. I want to ask you guys a question, John, JD, excuse me, before I come back to you. I want to ask both of you a question. I'm going to start first with you, JD, and then I'm going to come back to you, John. Do you think when it comes to instruction in general, do you think that there has been, and I'm talking about over time, that there, on behalf of the student, that there's been a misunderstanding of what we are trying to explain? Like when we're explaining certain things, keeping your head still and this, that they're taking sometimes maybe too literal, or they're not understanding the concept that we're trying to explain. I'm not talking about getting into all the details of the swing, but I'm just talking a generality. Do you think that there's been a misunderstanding over time in golf instruction by the students because they just don't really understand what it is we're trying to say to them? Maybe because of the lingo that we've used for many years. I know it's changed a lot in the last, especially 10 years, but 20, 30 years ago, we used a lot different lingo than we're using out in the lesson tee right now. So what are your thoughts, JD? And then John, I want to get your thoughts as well.
I definitely think that there's a lot of misunderstandings out there. I am utterly amazed when you go to the driving range, people who are very successful people who charge a lot of money for what they do, want to
Right.
give free advice, and they want to help. I am utterly amazed every time I play with a group of people how one person will start trying to help another person, and they're giving them information that's totally wrong.
Right.
And I don't go into an accountant's office and start telling people how to do accounting, because that would be I don't know that field. So whether it's with the internet now and being able to go on YouTube and all the different platforms and gather information, that's great. I mean, the people out there who are watching this show are going to get really good information, but you can't just take that information and start giving it to other people. So, it's best to take that information and bounce it off your local pros. Again, go into a PGA golf professional and go to them and say, last night I heard John Hughes talking about, the weight shift, and, what are some drills that I could do for that? I think that would be better to have a filter where you're going to be doing something that's in line with what your pro's trying to get you to do. And that's one of the reasons why I developed my website, is because I wanted my students to have a consistent message. I don't want them listening to 15 different pros on YouTube. So to answer your question, I definitely think that with technology now and all the information out there, I think that people are more confused than ever when they come into a lesson. And they usually come to me when they're at the bottom, when they, I'm like, why don't you catch me on the way down, not when you're at the bottom. So they say, well, I'm going to go to John now. It's my last resort, or I'm going to sell my clubs on eBay. I actually had a student tell me that yesterday. And then after the lesson, he was like, wow, this went a lot better than I thought it was going to go. And I said, well, if you'd come to me, 6 months ago, you probably would have played a lot better golf this summer. So I definitely think that you need to leave the information to the professionals, but there's definitely, from a student's perspective, a lot of misinformation out there.
Well, information overload too.
Yes.
And, I think for a lot of instructors, that's what you're talking about is challenging as well. And John, I'm going to come to you here in just a second, but, because there is a lot of information coming now at your fingertips, and, there's some great information by other fellow pros that we all know. And we may or not agree 100% with everything, but we certainly understand that, that certain methodology might be sound. But then again, when you're trying to make these adjustments as a player, as an amateur, and you're listening to one guy this week, and you got another guy, and then your pro is telling you something, and you've got so many messages coming in, you have to have that conversation. So John, I'm going to come to you. I think that's really the crux of it. I think as more and more detail, more and more information has become available through social media or what have you, that we really need to make sure that we're having a conversation with the student. And that doesn't mean we can't talk about things that they've seen or heard or witnessed or what have you. But I think that conversation needs to take place. What do you think about the whole discussion with respect to that? Or you not agree?
Well,
Or do you want
no,
to take another drink
I
first?
agree. I agree. I've just got so many different things going through my head here to figure out where do I start with this. And
Yeah.
I think where I want to start is there's how many different countries around the world that speak how many different languages. And what our job as a coach, as a golf coach or a coach of any sport or any profession, should be to find out what's the language that person is speaking. Now, I don't mean that literally. What I mean by that is an accountant's going to have a certain vocabulary and a certain way of describing certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Can I, as a coach, understand what they're saying, not as an accountant, but as a golfer, realizing that up here, they're an accountant?
Yeah.
And can I word things in a way that doesn't create confusion for them in relation to what we're doing right now?
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to go back to a statement you made earlier, Ted, and I summarized this for somebody earlier this week about tweaking and so forth, and it just compounded the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the person kept coming back to me saying, I just don't understand why I'm not consistent. I said, do you realize you just spoke out of both sides of your mouth? You said you're tweaking and now you want consistency. Those are two opposites. What are you going to do? What are we going to do here, and how do we want to do it? And what we came to the agreement on was labeling correctly. Not for me, not for JD, not for you. Labeling correctly for that person, which goes back to the accounting idea that I was trying to toss out there. I think it's up to us as coaches because there are no standards of flex from company to company. There's no standard of labeling from book to book, coach to coach, era to era. Hogan and Hagen and Henry Cotton, they probably had different ways of staying impact.
Mhm.
Cotton was hit the tire. You know, what does that mean? I'm going to walk down the street and tell somebody to hit the tire. All of a sudden they're scratching their head. Well, how does that do?
Right.
And go back and read that, and you'll understand that's what they meant by impact. So I think what we have to do collectively as coaches, and I'm doing that now with my staff, is saying, look, there's no right or wrong. I'm going back to my digest days. There's only correct for the person in front of us, and our job is to find out, beg, borrowing, and stealing from everything. What label does that person most associate with that provides the most efficient pathway, not just for their understanding, but for their ability of their brain to make happen what we're asking them to make happen?
Yeah, those are some great points. And I think it also, really what you're saying too, is it comes down to learning style. I mean, everybody learns differently. Again, if you're somebody that's a more technical person, you can get a little bit more into detail and things like that. And other people just might need to be shown. Some people sometimes just need you to show them what it is that you're wanting for them to do. And I don't mean just the swing itself, but what you're trying to accomplish, so they can visually sort of put that in their brain and mull it over a little bit. And I know for me, that was how I learned most efficiently all through school. Is I needed to, I would, even if I was reading a story or something in school, I would have to visualize it in my mind to sort of see, okay, yeah, I got to do that. I've got to move this over here. And that was how I, worked through my golf game over the years as well. Somebody else certainly can benefit from that, but maybe they need something more like what you're talking about, John. If they're more like an accountant where they're a little bit, talking numbers and they're, getting in more detail, they might need to have you go down point by point and describe what it is that they need to do. And they can't just, do a quick fix and that sort of thing. So you really have to understand and get to learn a little bit more about your student. And you're exactly right. Both of you is, I think that we have to approach the game much differently than we have, say, 30 years ago, because I think as we're learning as coaches that not everybody's the same. We can't put everybody in the same box. Yeah, there's some consistencies that can parallel from person to person, but at the end of the day, you've got so many different styles of not just the swing, but body types, things that have to be factored in. Again, as I mentioned with the veterans, you've got people that maybe are missing limbs or have injuries of some kind, and they're having to compensate. So you have to factor those in. So there's a lot of tweaking, as the term I was using, but it has to be done in the right way, and it can't be done off somewhere else and then come back, as you pointed out, John, with the confusion of saying, I don't understand why this is happening. Well, you're tweaking over here and you want to be consistent. They just don't mix. The opposites don't gel together. It's like putting two polarized magnets together. JD, I'm going to come back to you as we get ready to get winding up our discussion. And this one here is really, again, this goes to really what we just talked about, and is shaft lean. Is I see a lot of people, and obviously it's going to vary depending on the type of shot, but I see some people, they hear that, yeah, you got to get that shaft lean, and they see examples of it, and the next thing you know, it's like a 45-degree angle at address. And they're sitting there thinking they're wondering why they're hitting 2 inches behind the ball. So let's parcel that out a little bit. Let's talk about shaft lean. What are people misunderstanding? First off, what's happening? What are some of the causes and effects, and how do we help fix that?
Well, I just had this happen today. My very last lesson this afternoon before this, my student was setting up to the golf ball, and their hands were 3 to 4 inches too far in front of the golf ball at setup. And he said, I don't know why I'm hitting the ball out to the right. So I filmed him, I showed him, and I said, and he goes, aren't I supposed to have shaft lean? And I said, yes, you want shaft lean, but you want shaft lean at impact, not at setup. So he was putting the cart way before the horse there. So I showed him where the hands should be, and I showed him where they are at impact. So a tour player starts with his hands more, let's just call it a neutral position, where the hands are more in line with the golf ball with an iron. And when they swing at impact, their hands are When I was at Grand Cypress and saw Payne Stewart, his hands were almost 7 inches in front of the golf ball at impact. So he could de-loft his irons and hit them a long way. It was the first tour player that I ever got to see take a lesson. And I was just amazed how far he could hit his 8-iron. Well, he had a lot of shaft lean. He had a lot of lateral slide, and he could hit the ball a long way. Other players who are high ball hitters that are on tour may only have a couple of inches. But the shaft lean does not happen because of the arms. The shaft lean happens because of the rotation of the body. Mm-hmm. And the rotation of the body is what shallows out the swing, and that's what gets the hands more forward. Because when you swing a golf club, you produce centrifugal force. And centrifugal force is me holding a piece of rope, and the rope is hanging down. Well, if I start swinging that rope like a lasso, that lasso or the rope rises in the air. That's centrifugal force. We all produce it. A 5-year-old swinging a club produces. That's why beginners always straighten up when they hit the ball. That's centrifugal force. Their husbands are telling their wives, keep your head down. Keeping your head down is not going to defy centrifugal force. You must have the rotation. It's kind of what John was talking about earlier. So the rotation of the body is what gets the hands and gets the arms up there, and it counters that centrifugal force. Because if you don't rotate and you slide or you hang back, your arms are going to rise up. You're going to hit them fat or thin when you do that, or right or left, depending on what you're doing in your swing. But the bottom line is, to create shaft lean, you create it with rotation. I have a lot of drills on my website about rotation. I talk about rotation all day long. It is the engine of the golf swing. We rotate when we hit a little pitch shot, and we rotate when we hit a driver. We just do it at different speeds. The engine in my car runs the same in the parking lot as it does on the interstate, but on the interstate it runs a lot faster. So my engine is the rotation of my body, and then I do it at different speeds and obviously different clubs to produce the shaft lean and get the ball first and get the ball going at my target.
Well said. The whole reason I brought that up was because shaft lean was a perfect example of what we see so often. Yeah. We'll see, and again, I'm not trying to blame, from an instructional standpoint, but I even see tour pros talking about this when they go on and they'll shoot a video and they'll show, you say, well, you need to do this, and they'll preset that shaft lean so that people automatically start thinking, okay, well, I got to do that. And they're doing that at address. Well, then with the centrifugal force, as I say, as their bodies are turning, now they've maybe taken a couple of inches of shaft lean. Now they've turned it into 6 or 7 inches because, again, just the force of the club. So you've got to be very careful about that. And that's why I brought up that last part of the discussion that we were talking about, was because, again, there's so much information that's going around. And it's not that it's wrong, but it's just, it has to be put in proper context, I guess, is really what I'm trying to say. And I think once it's done, and that's just really, I think, one of the reasons why a lot of people, not just so much that they struggle, but got to a point where they got frustrated with the game, simply because there was so much information that they were being given, they didn't understand. And rather than asking questions and saying, can you explain that? Or, let's have a further discussion, they just went on the assumption, okay, I know, I don't want to look stupid and ask John, what he meant by that. So I'm just going to bluff my way through it. And, or they see something online and do that. So, I mean, it's just, again, it all boils down to, as our mutual panelist, Pete Buchanan always says, as he winds up in his coach's corner segment, he always says, let's have a conversation. And that's really what it boils down to, is let's have a conversation. Let's figure out what the problems are. Let's look at some solutions, and, quit trying to tweak and adjust and do all these things on your own. Let's get you down a good path and get out there. And as you say, John, let's have some fun. So great discussion, guys. I'm going to cut it a little short tonight, give you guys a break and get out there and do things that you want to do. It's coming into a weekend. So I'm going to give each of you an opportunity to let the folks know if they want to reach out. And if there's anything special that you'd like to plug, I'll give you a few extra moments to do that. So Mr. Hughes, you go first.
First off, again, Ted, always a great opportunity. And the new platform is just awesome. People get to see me talk with my hands now, which is really cool. JD, always a good time. Oh yeah, drink the hard stuff. JD, always.
And he is always, too, by the way, people. He is.
No, not until I'm off. Not until I'm done. but you always tell me, and I appreciate this compliment, that you always learn something when we're on together, and I have to mutually say the same thing. And it's great to hear some of the things you say, because it reminds me of some times I've spent with a mutual mentor, and that's Fred Griffin,
Yes.
who's worth the shout out.
Mm-hmm.
When you want to find me, I'm in Orlando for the most part. Look me up at johnhughesgolf.com, social media by the same moniker. A couple of announcements. I'm going for a guest residency, I guess is what you'd call it, and it's going to become pretty much a permanent fixture once in the spring, once in the fall, and that's to a sister Omni property, Homestead in Hot Springs, Virginia. I'll be up there
Cool.
through the 27th, from the 27th of September through about the 16th of October. I still have some very small windows of opportunity that if you want to come see me there, you can still get in and visit America's oldest resort, 1766,
Wow.
10 years predating the Declaration of Independence. So who knew there was a resort during that time? I hope the horses had one too. But I'm about to join the ranks of Ted and JD. I'll announce it here first. Sometime by the end of the month will be the first of 3 books that I'll be publishing under the main title of Instant Golf Improvement. And before you get your hopes up too high, there's no such thing as instant that goes along with improvement unless you've got Cheech and Chong's magic dust that made the reindeer fly during the Christmas holiday skit. But I think for the beginners out there, for the people with limited time, for the people who have limited capabilities, this series of books I'm hoping to be groundbreaking for those golfers who live in the present and want something yesterday, not today.
Right.
The first of the trilogy should be out by the end of the month with a total relaunch of that website, instantgolfimprovement.com, along with some other offerings there. I'm really excited. There's a lot going on here in Orlando with that, and I'm sure there will be more to talk about the next time I'm on next month.
Perfect. Well, I'm excited for you as well. JD, go ahead. How can they reach you, and anything that you'd like to let the listeners know about?
Well, once again, Ted, thanks for having us on tonight. And John, as always, congratulations, first of all, on the book. I knew you
Thank
had
you.
something in the works, but this is the first I've heard about it. And congratulations on the new gig as well at Hot Springs. So if the listeners out there want to get in touch with me, the best way is to go on my website, deckergolf.com. On there, I've got my video library, and I've got videos from full swing all the way to golf fitness. And there's 8 different categories. You can also reach me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And then if you are on YouTube, please subscribe to my channel. It's John Decker Golf Instruction. I've got over 500 videos on there. So they're very short videos, but they're some great tips and some ways to get a consistent message. My 2 books, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game, and Fairways to Heaven, One Shot at a Time, are golf Christian books. And if you're looking for a speaker like at churches or golf events, golf tournaments, charity events, I've done really all of those. I'd love to come to your community. I'm willing to travel to speak and help you to raise money or whatever the worthwhile organization is after. But Ted, thanks again for having us on, and it was a great show tonight. And I really love the new format. I think it's just been a great upgrade, and congratulations again.
Well, it's still a work in progress, but thank you guys. I'm gonna have to.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, we're all, exactly. But I appreciate it always, guys. Love having you guys on. It's hard to believe we're in season 13, and we're going to be winding that down in a couple of months, and we'll be into season 14. And I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was about 2 years. It was about the second year in that I was doing this that we brought Coach's Corner, and you were on pretty much for the beginning, and then JD, you came on just a year or 2 after that and started working with us here as well. So we really love this. All the guys coming in, and I think they're excited each season when the new schedule comes out to get signed up, and definitely an audience favorites having you guys on, and I enjoy it. And there's many others that are contributing to the panel, of course, each and every month. But thank you guys as well. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next time here on the Coach's Corner panel. And I'm going to take a quick commercial break, and I'll be joined by my good friend Bob Forman, golf fitness professional, and we're going to see if we can help your game getting into shape. So we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, and I'm excited to have joining me once again my very good friend and golf fitness expert, Bob Forman. Bob was the former director of fitness and wellness for the Congressional Country Club in Bethesda, Maryland. He's also internationally known as a leader in the field of golf fitness. His programs have been recognized multiple years by the Golf Fitness Association of America, and he holds a Master of Science degree in exercise physiology and is a certified golf fitness instructor through Titleist Performance Institute, or TPI, and also the Gray Institute. So, Bob, welcome back.
Hey, thanks, Ted. Always a pleasure being here.
I appreciate it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop up, before we get into our questions, I put together a little clip of some photos. Actually, it's into a little video. And what I'm going to do is get this thing going here. Where are we? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop it. So here's the first one. Explain what this is wrist, I know, is a wrist function that we're going to do, a wrist exercise. So try to sort of lay it out, if you will, what we're looking at, and then I'll advance it to the next slide.
Yeah, well, there's not really a whole lot written about forearm strength for the golf swing. There's a lot of focus, obviously, on the core and on shoulders and biceps and triceps and legs and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, if you're swinging a golf club, the average swing speed for males is around 90 to 100 miles an hour for the average amateur. For women, It's somewhere in the ballpark of 70 to 80 miles per hour. So, I mean, you have to have some decent grip strength to hold on to the club. Plus, the forearms are important to maintain balance within the wrist, the elbow, the shoulder. A lot of us tend to be stronger on the grip side of our forearm because we're constantly gripping things, but we're not doing a whole lot for the backside, the extensors. So it helps with the grip, it helps with shot making, and it will help prevent injury to all those areas, the wrist and the elbow and the shoulders. So this picture here is the start of an exercise called wrist abduction, ABD. UCTION, because you have abduction and adduction. Adduction is bringing towards the midline of the body. Abduction is going away from the midline. And when you're swinging a golf club, I mean, as you bring that club back, you're doing flexion and extension, but you're also doing the adduction and abduction part, probably even a little bit more so than the flexion extension. So it would be to the golfer's advantage to strengthen those muscles responsible for adduction, abduction. So as I mentioned, this one is the start for ABD, abduction. You can use a golf club. You can use a weighted bar, anything that will provide resistance. And this is the starting position. Basically, you want to I'm holding my left arm to my side and the arm is straight. And you want to cement it there. You want to keep it nice and solid right up against your body. And what you're going to do is I'm just going to take the head of the club and just lift it up and down, up and down. And I think the second picture, there you go. So you're bringing it up as high as comfort allows, and then you bring it back down. And that'll work, like I say, the muscles on the outer part of the forearm, the abductors. Good exercise to do while you're waiting to hit your next shot, while you're waiting for the group up in front of you. But this is an area that, unfortunately, a lot of golfers aren't aware of the fact that they should be strengthening this particular area. But here's a great exercise to help you work on those particular muscle groups.
And this, just so that people understand, that you're going to actually alternate and do the other side as well, correct? You're not just going to do the left side.
Yeah,
You're doing
yeah.
both sides.
You don't want.
Okay.
Otherwise, you walk around lopsided. You have a big forearm on. You'd be like a bowler.
Right.
But
Right.
10 to 15 to 20 reps up and down, nice, slow, and steady. And with the golf club, if you're using or a pole, weighted pole, the further you go out on towards the end of the club or the pole, the more resistance you're going to get. So
Sure.
in this example, I mean, you could grip just on the underside of the grip to start off. And as the strength develops, you can let more club out or more pole out to provide more resistance.
Yeah, and if you're going to use a pole too, I just want to, as a disclaimer, I just want to make sure that people, this is not about, you're not trying to lift a heavy weight. That's why a golf club is the perfect thing really to use. But if you don't, and you're just going to see the next exercise here that we're going to get you to describe. So let me just advance it to the next one, and then you can talk about this as another example if you don't have a golf club handy. So here you're doing something different. Let's explain this one here.
Yeah, this is for the adductors, the ADD, the inside part of the forearm. And again, any resistance, anything that's going to provide resistance while you're tapping, so to speak, the bar, the club, the pole, will help to condition those muscle groups. So this is kind of opposite of what I did with the golf club. So now I'm holding most of the weighted object, the club or the pole, or in this case, the bar, out, holding the end of it. And this time I'm going to tap to the back. So I'm going to make like I'm tapping the end of that bar to the floor and then lifting it up by, flexing the wrist, by adducting the wrist. And you would just go up and down, nice, slow, and steady, just like you did with the abduction. And 10 to 15 to 20 reps is really all you need. You'll fatigue out. You'll feel this one. But again, it's a good one, especially for the golf swing.
Would you recommend for people that maybe have not done this to maybe, and I mean 10, 15, 20 may not seem like a lot, but for somebody that's maybe never, especially some of our older senior golfers, maybe they might want to just start off and see how they feel, do 5, 6, or 7 to start off with, and work their way up, and just to make sure, because the last thing you want to do is create a wrist injury or anything. And I know this is not heavy weights, but would you recommend that maybe just the first couple of times that you do it, just maybe don't do the full 15, 20 reps, or what do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just like with any type of strength exercise, you want to start off easy and progress up. So it's always better to go a lot easier than you think in terms of the resistance. And then as the strength you do get gains in the strength, you can increase the resistance or the number of reps. So, and again, these are great exercises to help prevent things like golfer's elbow and stuff like that. That's one thing you don't want to suffer, because golfer's elbow on the medial side of the elbow or tennis elbow on the outside just hangs around forever. And, you definitely want to prevent it. So you don't want to have to rehab it.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to mention that, just so that people understand, you want to go easy. So we're going to move on to the next exercise. So here you've got a couple of light weights in your hand. So what are you getting ready to do here, and what's the exercise? And I know there's a couple of, and hopefully I got them in the right order that you want.
So it doesn't matter. You're going up and down, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
But
Okay, so
this is for the flexors on the underside of the forearm, the stronger part. And basically, just taking a light weight and just supporting the forearms on a shelf or a chair or something, and just moving the hands up and down, again, as far as comfort allows, just to work the underside, those flexors in the forearm. And again, as you mentioned, you want to go easy with the weight. You don't want to put a lot of stress on the elbows and such. So 3 pounds, 5 pounds is a good weight to start with. And as the strength gets better, you can move up 7 pounds. I would move up in smaller increments. I wouldn't go from 5 to 10 pounds. I'd go from 5 to 7, and then, maybe to 10. But you're not going to really use a whole lot of weight. And this one will be easier than the wrist extension, which I think you probably have next. Pictures?
Let me just see what we got next here. So we've got this one here.
Yeah, there's your flexion.
Yeah. And let me see what we've got on the next one here. Yeah.
And there's your extension. So again, palms up for the flexion, palms down for the extension. So again, you're just going up and down as far as comfort allows with the weight. You're going to feel this on the top part of your forearm that's working those extensors.
Yep.
And again, that tends to be the weaker side of the two. So you may want to dictate the weight by how much you can do on this particular exercise versus the flexors.
So I just want to clarify so people really understand this. The importance of why you want to do this, obviously you want to build strength and things like that, but this is a great point that you're making here, because a lot of times, as you mentioned, underneath here on this side of the forearm, usually typically is very, very strong. It's not so much on the other, and that can affect it. You want to balance it. I mean, it's never going to be as exact. Maybe, I mean, I might be wrong, but you're the expert. It's never going to be as exactly the same as the under. But if there's such a big discrepancy, that is going to affect how you swing the golf club, correct?
Yeah, and more so for injury potential. If there is a big discrepancy between the two. So it's important. And you can get up to the point where the weight that you're using for the extension is equal in terms of the way it feels on the flexion. When you start off, you're probably going to find that the flexion is going to be a whole lot easier just because we're stronger on that side. But at some point, and you may want to do an extra set on the extensors for the first few weeks just to kind of get them to catch up to the flexor side. And then you'll find that, I can do 10 pounds, 10 to 12 to 15 reps, and I get the same feeling that I get when I do either the extension or the flexors.
Right. Well said. So I'm going to move on to the next one here. So this exercise, so here we go. This is another one here that you're bringing up. And you've actually, looks like you've angled out a little bit here.
Yeah, this is rotation. Okay. So you want to go from palms up to palms down. Palms up, palms down. So basically you're going to supinate, pronate. And again, that's working the rotation of the forearm, which in the golf swing, as you're coming down through the golf swing, you want to be able to kind of utilize those muscle groups. And this one you want to be careful with because, again, you don't want to put too much pressure on the elbow, especially as you're kind of doing the supinated part. Again, go slow and steady and don't try to overdo it, either with the range of motion. Just go to a comfort level or with the amount of weight on this one.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's very, and that's why I wanted to sort of do that little bit of a disclaimer, is I don't want people going out there and think, well, I can curl, 30 pounds a side or something, and they get out there with a big heavy weight and, end up with a wrist injury and being off the golf course for the rest of the season. So I want to make sure we get that other. All right, we're going to click to the next exercise here. And this is one here. There we are. So here you are set. You got a bar and on a setup with some weight there. So what exercise are you getting ready to do here?
So this is a reverse curl. So basically it's like a bicep curl, but your grip, instead of being the grip with the palms out, you're turning the palms in so that the palms are facing you. This is done on a cable. You can use free weights for this. Again, you're going to go a little bit lighter than what you would do a bicep curl with on this because it's going to be tougher to do. And you want to be careful when you get to about this point here because it'll get easy again. So don't be looking down because you may crack yourself in the noggin. So, keep the palms facing you, come up nice, slow, and steady, and a little bit of a wider grip on that bar. And that's, again, going to work that forearm group along with the bicep.
Right. Perfect. All right. So let's, that was the last one that we had on there. So I think you said you had a couple maybe that you might want to do as well that you want to show. You're going to actually demonstrate a little bit. So if you want to go ahead and do that now or
yeah, I mean, a great little easy exercise to do while you're sitting around watching TV at night is to take a rubber band, right? And again, because we tend to be stronger on the flexors than on the extensors, because we hardly do anything where we're opening up our fingers against resistance. If you take that rubber band and you wrap it around your first knuckle and just open and close 15 to 20, 25 times, you'll start to feel a little burn in those extensors. So that's a good one to kind of offset that imbalance between the flexors and the extensors. And once 20 reps, let's say, gets easy, you go to the next thicker rubber band, and that'll provide more resistance.
Yeah,
Two other good exercises. I'm going to stand up for this one to demo. One's called a Zockman curl. So again, this will hit the bicep and the forearms at the same time. So what you're going to do is you start off with a supinated curl. So as you bring the dumbbells up, you're going to go from palms facing each other to palms facing your shoulder. When you get to the top, you're going to rotate the palms out. Now this is where the forearm comes into play. And you're coming down nice and slow. All right. Supinate up, rotate out, come down nice and slow. You're going to feel that brachioradialis pop as you're bringing that weight down. So a real good exercise, again, as an alternative. So you have a little variety to do these exercises. You're not doing the same thing all the time and just kind of going nuts. And then another one, and again, 8 to 12 to 15 reps, comfortable weight. Another one is called they call it a pinwheel curl or a cross the body curl. So again, you're starting with the dumbbells at your side, palms facing each other. And what you're going to do is you're going to come up along your body. So the palm is facing your body up to the top. And then you alternate to the other side. And I like to tell people to kind of almost tap their cheek with the back of the hand as you're bringing the dumbbell up. And you just keep alternating, doing your 8 to 12 reps. And again, you can see that brachioradialis popping there to work that forearm group. Yeah. So you got about 5 good exercises there. Almost crushed my laptop just then. 5 good exercises there to kind of help build up those forearms.
This is really good because this is an area that a lot of people, I see people at the gym, and they're lifting heavy weights and they're thinking they're getting themselves in shape. And, a lot of those exercises don't really parcel out when it comes to the golf course. And what they end up doing is they're bulking up and they might look good, but they're really not engaging the muscles that they're going to be using. And what people don't understand is the forearms and the wrists, those really engage because that's your hands are what holding the golf club, but those muscles are engaging with the golf club. The other bodies, the big bodies, your glutes and all that, that's really the stability, if you will, of the golf swing. That's helping rotation and things like that. That doesn't have anything really to do with the golf club. And if you've got weak wrists or you've got, your forearms are weak as well, then you're going to have problems of really swinging the golf club. And a lot of times people will get that, especially as we get older. It's just part of life as we get older. But the main thing that I want people to understand is that these are exercises that you can do even at home. You don't have to go to a gym. These are things that you can do. And if you don't have weights like that and you don't want to go and invest it, get a couple of good soup cans, something like that, just to give you some resistance, some bands, what have you in that. What I want to ask you, exactly. Rocks if you have to. The one thing that I want to ask you is how often, and again, we're going to deal with age here, but how often weekly should we be doing that, and how much is too much? Not so much just the repetitions, but how often should this be something every other day that we do, maybe once or twice a week? How often should we be doing some of these exercises?
Well, again, if you're dealing with just amateur golfers, a lot of them probably aren't doing anything in terms of strength training for golf. I like to put my clients through a 3-day-a-week total body workout. Like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. I would try to avoid 3 days in a row because you want to kind of give the muscles a break to kind of recover and restore. But if you can get in a total body workout 3 days a week where you're hitting the major muscle groups, you do some golf-specific exercises, which, you throw in those forearm exercises there and you vary it so that you don't get bored with it. That's going to be a great program. You'd be surprised how many people can't maintain a 3-day-a-week program. 2 days a week, okay, you'll get some benefits, but if you can throw that third day in there, I tell you, it really makes a big difference. The other point too, Ted, is, a lot of golf courses, I know our course here, they like to keep the rough. Yeah. And that's where a lot of people get hurt especially in the wrists, the elbows and shoulders and stuff. So again, by strengthening the forearms and helping with the grip, that'll kind of help you get through those situations and reduce potential for injury. So that's another thing to think about.
Yeah, but well said. And again, we're in sort of the coming into the fall season now. There's still plenty of golf left for most of the country. There's some areas that are going to be winding down here in a couple of months, but there's still plenty of golf left. It's never too late. And I think these are nice exercises too, because you don't have to necessarily do every single one of them each excuse me, pardon me, each session. You can maybe do a couple of them on the Monday and do a couple of the other ones on the Tuesday, or on the Wednesday rather, and then the Friday do the other, so there's plenty, or mix them up and then increase how many you're going to do. So maybe you might start off just doing 2 each day, or each of your workout days. And then maybe if you find that that's not giving the results you want, maybe you can do a third one each day, do 3 of them each day, and then build it up. And then eventually maybe you're going to do all, 5 or 6 of them. But you can always ease into it in that, and based on your fitness level in that. But I think it's important because a lot of people I see, and it adds and contributes to weak grips. They're not holding onto the club well, and they're not swinging the club well because they've got weak forearms and wrists. And again, you don't have to be pumped up like Schwarzenegger, but you've got to definitely work those muscles, because a lot of people now, especially sitting behind desks and we're writing or working on computers, our fingers might be good, but the rest of our forearms and stuff are getting lax. So it's important to do these exercises. So
yeah, and you're right about the variety. I mean, I think one of the biggest factors that people burn out is because they get bored doing the same thing. And to be honest with you, some of the studies that are out there show that the muscles get bored doing the same thing all the time. As a matter of fact, a couple of studies I read said there is actually even a little bit of a detraining because they're bored. So, I mean, if you have, 2 or 3 different exercises for each muscle group that you can rotate through, doesn't matter if you're doing, a chest press or a chest fly. I mean, you're still hitting the chest from different angles and such. So, and it gives you a little variety of, the exercises instead of doing the same old, same old. So, it's good to have that variety, and it's good to kind of switch up, but also keep in mind that you want to work within a repetition, a range of 8 to 12, 10 to 15 reps. And once you get to the maximum number of reps, you kind of stay there for 6 sessions, a couple weeks, and then something needs to change to challenge the muscle again, because the muscle's adapted to that weight. The easiest thing to do is just to add more resistance.
Yeah, well said. And I think it's important that, people really engage in this. And as I said, it's never too late. Doesn't matter what your age is. Obviously, if you've got some health issues and things like that, you want to consult with your physician, and you definitely want to consult with a golf fitness professional. Don't just go to the gym and ask the guy there, especially if you're playing golf, because they may not, give you exercise and things like that. So somebody like Bob is a great guy to have around. So Bob, if for those that want to maybe reach out and give them your website, and if they want to connect, obviously I know you have your information there, but give them the website where they can get more information from you, and also maybe see some other exercises that you've talked about in the past, and maybe you haven't talked about yet on a future show, but let them know where they can go.
Yeah. And I add new stuff, change things around every month. So don't just go there once, go back. It's Golf Fit Carolina, GOLFIT Carolina.com. There's some articles in there. Like you say, there's some videos of exercises and such. There's our podcasts on there, so they can go back and listen to some of the older episodes that we've done on the various segments of golf fitness and such. So, yeah.
And you can also go into golftipsmag.com. I'm going to be featuring some of Bob's fitness tips on golftipsmag.com. So you want to check that out as well. We're going to be adding more of those as we go along. There's already a couple of his earlier articles that he's provided. They're already up there now under golf fitness and nutrition, because they're covering that as well. I mean, Bob is as he said last time, not a nutrition expert, but he certainly can give you a little bit of advice, but obviously you want to consult with a professional there as well. But Bob, as always, thank you very much. Look forward to coming back in a couple of weeks, and excited to see what you've got in store for us then. And I'm going to incorporate, I just worked out today, but I'm going to incorporate when I go this weekend to the gym again, I'm going to incorporate a couple of these exercises, because I know I need to work my forearms and wrists. So, definitely, for sure. All right, when we come back, I'm going to be joined by my featured guest of the evening, so stick around, and we'll see you back here in just a few moments.
Improve your putting with the Alignment Ball Marker, a revolutionary new in-game putting alignment tool and ball marker. Its patented design allows you to reach your putt and adjust your alignment at the same time by using your putter, which improves your accuracy and makes the process of putting faster. 100% legal according to the USGA, by their definition, permitted under the rules of golf. Winner of Best New Product at the PGA Show, and only $9.99 on Amazon. And it's also completely customizable for any golf event or as a promotional giveaway. Order at alignmentballmark.com.
Welcome back. I'm very excited to have my featured guest of the evening, Morne Botha. He is the CEO of Jondo Sports USA. And I'll tell you a little bit about him, and then we'll get into tonight's discussion. So he is known for expertise as a PGA professional and his extensive career in golf business, technology, and innovation, which includes founding a junior golf academy and developing a sports talent identification program. His background also features a leadership role in revitalizing an African golf course, serving as general manager for Duca del Cosma Golf Footwear. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ted. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for joining tonight, and I'm really looking forward to this. So I want to go back a little bit because we're both fellow golf professionals. So I want to get I like to do this with all of my new guests on the show, and that is to go back to when you were first introduced to the game. How were you introduced to the game? Was it by a family member or was it somewhere else? And what are some of your earliest recollections of the game? And then we'll get into some more discussion.
Yeah, Ted. So I was introduced to the game by my dad, not to initially go and play, but he had a game set up one Friday afternoon with the bank manager, and he said, come along. I was 14 years old, and he said, come along and come and caddy for me. And 3 holes in, I said, it looks easy. I should give it a go. And
right.
I played the next 6 holes, and every hole I went 1 over par, bogey. I beat the bank manager and my dad, and the next day I got my first set of clubs and started playing golf. So I was lucky. I think, like most South Africans, we grow up as a nation. Everyone is very active, and everyone gets introduced to all different sport disciplines from a very young age. So any ball sport sort of came easily to me. So golf was fun. I really enjoyed it when I started. My dad was slightly opposed to it when I said this is my game. He thought it's just going to be a thing for another week or two, and then I'm off to the next sport. But I started when I was 14, and 12 months later, I was playing off a scratch handicap.
Wow.
Literally played golf every single day. From that first day, I got my golf set. Really loved the game. And then, South Africa, growing up there, the climate is perfect, first of all. So all year round golf. Golf courses were very accessible, to get to. South Africa don't really have private golf courses, so they're all like what you would call here in America your municipal golf courses. So
public
most
course,
of them are very accessible, very affordable to play, and it's such a small country. So I grew up with, today you would call them legends, in golf, and so I really just became a golf nut from day one, and it's now, I don't know how many years, more than 30 years later, and I'm still in it and going strong. So loving the game.
Well, I think once you get sort of bitten, as they say, I know it sounds cliche, but once you get bitten by the bug, it's very difficult to put the clubs down. The only thing I would probably say about your journey is it might not have been a good idea to beat the bank manager and your dad the first time out. That might have caused a little bit of friction there, but especially if your dad was trying to get some business from the bank manager. But no, I think it's always interesting, and the reason I ask people that is because everybody's journey is different. Some people try it out and it's okay, but nothing. And then all of a sudden they hit that one pure shot, and it just, the golfing gods just sort of open the floodgates, and there they go. And it sounded like, obviously, you were athletic anyways, and you had an opportunity to get out there and play, and it was something that you were passionate about, and became a PGA professional at some point as well. So walk us through that journey. I mean, you obviously went out and played. You became a scratch golfer very early. What made you decide to take it up professionally?
Yeah, so again, I think it's I think it's also my type of personality, and I think if you look at golfers that start at a young age and really stick to it, it's definitely a personality trait where the individual enjoys a sport where they sort of individual sport, not team sport necessarily, but personality wise more trying to be in control on your own and take accountability for all your actions in sport. I really enjoy team sports, but golf for me was just, it's all me. It's what I put in, that's what I'm getting out. So that really sort of resonated with me, and I think that got me sort of more into it. And I think turning pro was later on. It's all I wanted to do was play golf.
Right.
And even before golf, I knew I was going to do something in sport. It was never, dreams of becoming a police officer or a firefighter or whatever. For me, it was anything in sport. So only later on, it was definitely golf. So scratch played what we called in South Africa provincial golf. Here it would be for your state, or and quickly after that, it was I come and study, on a golf scholarship here in America. I wasn't keen on that. I just wanted to play golf straight away. So I turned pro in straight after school. Turned pro, and funny thing happened. I initially thought, it's going to be easy. Get out there, just play golf, get paid, and there you go. And then something happened to me. So whether I was good enough, not good enough, I don't know, to have made it as a tour player. But one thing happened to me, and it was I lost my sponsor as a very young tour player. Played in a tournament, and I couldn't check out of the hotel. They wanted me to settle my bill straight away. I don't have any money. I finished second in that specific tournament, and I said, I've got a check. I had my checkbook. I said, no, they don't take checks. It's I need to pay by card, swipe the card, or cash. I said, well, I don't have either of those. I can only give you a check. I said, well, it's not going to work. I said, okay, I'll let me sort it out. I walked out the reception area, sat down, and a friend of mine phoned me, and he said, I saw you played, at this facility, at this golf course. Are you still there? It's a resort golf course in South Africa. I said, yes. And he said, come, why don't you stay there for another week? We on our way there. I want some lessons. If you're not going to play in another tournament, and he'll pay for all my accommodation and everything and settle my bill. And for me, that was like a sign from above. Here's my way out into teaching, and I don't know, I just didn't like that, struggling like that, and looking back today, and my kids are keen golfers, and I say to them, you got to love the struggles. You need to embrace the struggles and get. I didn't. I enjoyed the golf business side more. Straight after that, I started my golf school, and the idea was to start this golf academy, golf school, teaching kids to sort of sponsor myself to just go and play golf and not worry about the finances. But that never turned out like that. I fell in love with the business side of golf. And even even when I started making enough money to sponsor myself to play on tour, it didn't. It was just not. I didn't wake up thinking I want to hit the range and go and hit 1,000 golf balls. For me, it was thinking of my customers, thinking of business. So I kept on playing on tour for quite some time, but the golf business side really attracted me, and that's did my PGA apprenticeship, qualified as a PGA pro, and I think like many PGA pros, just do the normal thing till you find sort of your way and what you like and where you sort of fit in. Yeah, so that was my journey, from
It sounds like
golf.
it sounds like at some point the playing sizzle. And I don't mean you obviously enjoyed playing the game, but it kind of sound as a touring professional, that sizzle kind of, again, it is a struggle. People don't realize, and kudos to you, and bless you for going as long as you did. It's not an easy gig, and it looks very glamorous on TV when you see these professionals out there, but the truth of the matter is, there's only a top handful of people that really can go out and do that day in, day out and not have to worry about expenses. The rest of the guys and gals out there are just grinding it day in, day out. And, I often look back years ago when you look at some of the earlier pioneers of golf, and they drove around with trailers and they didn't stay in hotels. And, so it's always interesting when you look back in reflection, but it's interesting. I just always like to hear people's story and how they got into the game. And we're now going to get into your business, and that is Jondo Sports. So tell me a little bit, just give me a little bit of the history of it and how it got started.
Yeah. So it actually was founded by a good friend of mine, Mike de Jong. He was an ex-tennis tennis player. And after he retired from playing full-time tennis, he got involved in the eyewear business in South Africa. He was a distributor of quite a famous brand in Europe. He sold that business, and after, I think he had a restraint of trade, I suppose, on him for 2 years, and after that, and this was during and just before COVID hit,
right?
They were thinking of, or he was thinking of, and understanding obviously what we call fastball sports, that there's a very specific lens that you need for any racket sport or golf and so on. Anyway, so he had a friend, optometrist, that was and is a very keen golfer, and they started talking about what's the right application for golf specifically. And anyway, long story short, during COVID lockdown, they had so much time, and they were talking, and I said, listen, we need to, while we've got time, let's just develop this lens and put together a product that's really made for golf. So they started that, launched it in 2020 in South Africa in the optometry lab there. At the time, I was the GM at Peakenwood Golf Estate, Jack Nicklaus signature course.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike, we've been friends for many years. He came to me and says, have a look at this. This product is really special. And I put it on, and I've always been a guy that, well, first of all, love great products, good quality products, and that can really help you play better. I mean, as the coach in me or the player in me, that's what I like to see. People come with these fancy stuff today, and I'll go, okay, but what does it really do for your golf?
Right.
So that's me. And anyway, I put these glasses on, and it is wow. I actually can't believe it. And straight away we got it into our shop there. And I said to him, who owns this brand in America? And he said, no, well, they're just the manufacturers. They've got no intentions of really going further. I said, well, I want this product for America. And it took me a couple of years to sort of set up the business. And another very good friend of mine, and now my business partner, Johan Liebenberg, he's a very good businessman, serial entrepreneur. Spoke to him about it, and he said, well, he'll join me, and he'll run the business affairs, and I'll look after the golf side. And that's what we did. So it took us about 2 years after that to set up the business before we could open up our offices here in America. And it's now been about 15 months, almost, 15 months since we immigrated, both with our families and everyone, set up everything here in the States and started. So we started Jondo Sunglasses here in the US. So that's where it started, in a lab. It still gets manufactured in an optometry lab. These two friends of mine, Mike and Peter, they still own the manufacturing and the Jondo brand in South Africa. And so we still manufacture there. Then we ship everything here to the US, and from here we distribute. Yes.
Now, where is it based in the U.S.? Where principally are you based? I mean, obviously your products going all over the place, but where did you set up shop, so to speak?
Just outside of Charlotte in North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful area.
Yeah, beautiful. It's very similar. The weather is very similar to South Africa, and that was sort of one of everyone's asking, how did we end up here? And well, it's weather. In South Africa, you live outdoors. You don't want to be inside half of the year. So for us, it's need to give us something that we can just live outside, man.
Right.
So,
no, it's a good location for sure. A lot of good golf courses in the Carolinas, both north and south. So I wanted to ask you something. So, when I was setting up for this interview, I got privy to a few different articles, and one of them was talking about some of the science behind your products, and one of the things that really caught my attention, I don't think a lot of people know, and I just want to get your take and your thoughts on this. But so as I was reading, I came across the section very early on, and it talks about that really we see with our brain and not our eyes. And a lot of people are probably thinking, what are you talking about? I don't understand that. So can you maybe explain that for people? I just found it very interesting because obviously you know your products very well. So how is it that our brain and our eyes are working together? What are we actually seeing with?
Yeah, so if you look at how it works, firstly, let's start with the brain. So the brain, first of all, sits in a very dark cage. It doesn't have its own eyes or own, you need to feed the brain with all the senses. The brain also doesn't know the difference between different pressure situations, whether it's life or death situation, or just you trying to make a 3-foot putt to win a skin of your buddy, So the brain doesn't know the difference. So that's the first step. So when you're playing golf, there are many factors that actually influence focus and how the brain operates. So firstly, yes, the first tee shot, some guys, girls stand on the first tee, they get nervous. The brain goes fight or flight mode. It's stress. It's, what do you do? You might just run to your bag. The heart rate goes up, the heart rate spikes, and the brain goes fight or flight mode. Or, you play your front nine, you shoot level par, and the back nine, you go 10 over par, and you go, what was so different? Well, you get tired. There's fatigue involved, and the brain again goes, well, the body is under stress. There's fatigue. It reacts differently. And the moment there's stress, the synapses in the brain, they sort of pull apart to save the neurons from all that high energy going through. And the moment there's a disconnect in communication, the body starts reacting differently. Okay, now that's just the quick what happens in the brain and stress. So we see with the brain, not the eyes. In other words, whatever information we send to the brain, and the better images, the better information we send to the brain, the better decisions we can make.
Right.
Now, the eyes is like a camera, taking pictures. So if we don't have the right lens in front of that, it basically captures the wrong images and sending that to the brain. and then from there trying to make decisions. So the lens technology that we use is for that. So right. Firstly, what can we put on our eyes that will always sort of relax the eye? Because the eye is a muscle. So it cuts out eye fatigue, and once we cut out eye fatigue, there's no stress, and you can keep your focus levels up. So that's the first thing. The second one is to give the brain the right visual image. What do we require to do that? And firstly, it is we need true depth perception.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of sunglasses brands, they claim true depth perception and this and that, but the moment you put a layer, a coating over it, the moment the lens is bent, you see all this fashion stuff today where it's these wraparound fancy trendy stuff that's going on. The moment that happens, there's distortion. When there's distortion, when there's any coating or anything over it, that messes up with the depth perception. So in any fast ball sport, any ball sport, you need true depth perception, because it's all about judging distance and what you see. So you'll find that many golfers that do play with sunglasses, they play with them on, and then once they get close to the green, they'll take them off, to putt or chip or in a bunker, and that's because you're not looking in the distance anymore. You're looking sort of up close here, and that immediately it feels uncomfortable. Something is happening, and they take it off, and there they go. Now, the moment you take it off, now the camera, that the pupil closes, because all of a sudden bright light, different conditions, adjust, and that muscle working gets tight, and now eye fatigue kicks in, and squinting and all of that. So that's the next thing. You want to give true depth perception so you can make the right call. Lastly, in the lens, it's playing with colors. Now, the technology we use is called spectral filtration. It's a technology where we don't block light, firstly. Mm-hmm. So most sunglasses just block light. And when you block light, it goes dark, it's darker, different lens tint in it, and so on. So we don't block light, we use light. Now, with that ability to use light, we can then play with different color waves and spectrums that come through. So amplify certain colors that you need to see in golf: red, green, blue, yellow, white. Those colors we amplify, the other colors we sort of block. Now, that creates a big color contrast, contrasting colors. And that's the ability now to see angulation, read the greens a lot better. But for the average golfer, just tracking the ball through the sky. So it's almost like HDR when you put it on and tracking the ball. And that gives you a big soothing sensation on the eye. It gives the brain the best visual possible. And spectral filtration and using light allows you to play with these lenses in any weather condition. So whether it's overcast, sunny, playing in the shade, doesn't matter. You keep them on, and you can play with them from start to finish. And so that's really the science behind it. It's to really make any golfer, whether you're a pro golfer, regular golfer, good golfer, junior golfer, recreational, doesn't matter. Any golfer, it helps you to really feel that soothing sensation. It calms down everything, better visuals, better decisions, and ultimately it's, to play better golf. I'm not saying when you put it on, now your handicap will drop by a few shots.
I was hoping you would.
Or we guarantee no more 3 putts, but but it's all about it's a game of small margins, so every single thing that you can do to help improve, but the eyes lead the body, and that's something that we need to remember in the game, is that so when we look at the eyes and we give the eyes the best chance to give the brain the best information possible, we enjoy the game a lot better, we enjoy the game a lot better. We play slightly better, and that's what we want ultimately.
Well, and the reason, Morne, that I wanted to get you to talk about that, and I found it very interesting, and obviously there's a lot more detail that gets into the article, but I wanted you to touch on that because I don't think people really understand, because, we've sort of, and this is something else that talks about, which you really just covered too, in the articles that talked about polarized lenses. And, you were talking about that and obviously the different shapes of sunglass products that are out there and how they're really not beneficial for what we want to do, and particularly for playing golf. And it is so important. I know I've worn, cheap sunglasses. I've worn very expensive sunglasses in my years. And I found a lot of the sunglasses, and I'm not, knocking a lot of the brands out there, but even some of the most expensive brands that are out there didn't just do the trick. And, to go to your point, because a lot of times I'm still looking at it, okay, I'm having difficulty judging the distance. It's not my eyesight, but it's just that the lenses are kind of almost playing tricks on you. So, what you just explained really kind of clarifies that and how important, especially when you get into green reading, because with today's modern game, the greens are very undulated. They're not these nice flat pancakes that you used to see, 30 years ago. There's a lot of undulation. And if you can't read that, or if you can't read the break, because your eyes are sort of playing tricks on you, what you might think that you've got a left to right break might be a straighter putt than you think, or vice versa. And all of a sudden, you're not, and again, all kidding, excuse me, pardon me, all kidding aside, obviously, wearing the sunglasses is not going to reduce your handicap per se directly, but it does contribute to becoming a better player, because you're now able to get the information. You're able to feed your brain the information correctly, as opposed to just sort of a lot of guesswork, which a lot of people do. So I really like how you explain that, because it sort of opened up a window for, I think, what people don't really understand, just the importance of a good pair of sunglasses. So,
so let's start with the polarized
yeah.
section that you mentioned. So firstly, polarized lenses are great to cut out glare, to cut out like extreme bright light. That's, if you look at the history of sunglasses, where it started, they made sunglasses for pilots, flying in the air, and it was the right sort of call it application for what they needed. And then it became a fashion item.
Sure.
And it still is. If you look at, if you're going to golf shops today, and, I find it very difficult, walking into golf shops, and all I see is polarized sunglasses, because, it's a great lens if you go fishing, or you're out skiing or boating, and that's fine. But for golf, it's not the best. And there's a big trend in golf, and all your listeners will 100% agree with me, is that today people are looking at buying golf attire that they can also wear, like a crossover to lifestyle.
Sure.
I mean, here we're sitting in golf shirts. 30 years ago, we wouldn't have sat here with a golf shirt on, or my golf pants, and even our shoes. I mean, today, your golf shoes are good enough to put on with a pair of jeans and go out to a barbecue with them. That's what people are looking for today. That's the trend, a crossover product to golf and lifestyle. So sunglasses fall right into that.
Yeah.
It's great to buy a pair of sunglasses that you can, wear when you're driving, or go and watch a football game or whatever. It's perfect.
Right.
But for golf, if we go back to polarization, so polarization brings in their perception issues, because it blocks light and the glare differently on both horizontal and vertical lines, and by blocking that, so you see, it's almost like the blinds behind me. If you have to look through them, certain lines you see, others are blocked out. Now, when you look down, immediately it brings in a different effect. You can't really focus that sharply on that point that's so close to you. So for golf, it's a definite no. You don't want to do it. I mean, it's like a automatic built-in 3-putt putter that people will sell. We can't do that. So for golf, it's really important to have the right lens. And to your point, it does help. It does help you perform better.
Right.
The tests we do is obviously not just on the frame or the lens from an optometry standard, but also the actual output and feedback that we get. And simple things like if I stand on the green and I ask any golfer, read this line for me, and give me an exact spot where you think this putt will break from left to right, and considering the slope, the grain, and the speed. So they will give me a spot. Then I say, all right, now put on a polarized lens, put on even a non-polarized lens, but that's, where there's a coating on or whatever, and then put on hourglasses. And then immediately they say, but hang on, it feels different. I said, okay, right. So give me that point that you feel now. And then I said, all right, now from this point to that point, and normally I just use a stimp meter reader, let the ball run to a very specific point. And then I'd say 8 out of 10 times, the stimp meter, when we roll the ball, the actual line for the ball to get into the hole is 8 out of 10 is closer to the line that you would see with the glasses on, because it gives you a better feel for what's happening. Right. I don't want to relate it to that because I'm not too knowledgeable about it, but like aim point.
Yes.
So why do people use aim point? Is it it's all based on feel, right? Mm-hmm. And that gives them a better sense of, how the putt will break, and I mean feel, and how their body is aligned and that. So the glasses does basically that. You put it on and immediately there's a better visual to make a better decision. And it's not just a better decision you're going to make, it's a more accurate decision you're going to make. And I've spoken to, especially my boys, my one son is a really good golfer. And, some days he comes off and he says, well, I've been so unlucky. I've lipped out so many putts. I said, I don't look at it. Go read Dave Pell's putting Bible about luck on a putting green. But, for me, you got to be more sharp with choosing the right line and mix that line, obviously, with pace. And then you're going to make more putts. If a whole day, all 18 holes goes and it's always lip out, it's not just luck or bad luck. There's something else wrong.
Right.
And to your point, when you have the right lens on and you get the exact right visual that the brain needs, you can make a better decision. You feel a lot better, and you putt. I mean, you ask many amateurs, give me a line, and it's always left lip, right lip. Doesn't matter how many. I mean, it's really got to sit like this before they go. Yeah, it's at least 3 feet right or left.
Right.
I think that's always left lip, right lip. And it's not like that. So
no.
So
their green reading. Their green reading lacks some consistency. That's for sure. It's interesting because again, you're really making the point that the eyes are sort of the window to what we need when we're playing golf. Because again, if you're bringing in the wrong information, then you're going to make more than likely a wrong decision. And when you're able to see what's really going on and getting a better visual, and you're able to see that break correctly, and you're able to see the distance and so forth a little bit better, what that does over time is that brings confidence into play, because then you feel more confident and more self-assured about your game, and you're going to see results. And again, it's not that it's changing your golf swing. It's not doing that, but it's giving you better information. It's kind of like in a way, before we didn't really know the yardages. Now we have technology out there to help us with the yardages and that. So it's very similar in that, is it's doing something else. It's giving us more information while looking good at the same time. Mm-hmm. And that's really what you want. Is you want, again, you touched on lifestyle, sort of that transition, not just something that you wear out in the golf course, but something that you can transition to when you're going out for dinner or you're going out for a nice, sunset walk with your partner. So there's a lot of different applications that can be used, but it really goes to the point that you're making is how important it is that we get accurate information if we want to play our best golf. And it sounds like you guys have really got a great formula.
Yeah. Ted, for me, it's almost like, why is the golf basics so important? So if you take alignment, for instance, you see so many golfers hit golf balls on the range, and all of a sudden, the alignment starts going off where they need to aim, feet, hip, shoulders pointing right, and all of a sudden everything is over the top, and it's like the brain immediately feels my alignment's off. I need to come over the top to sort of fix a fault with another fault, and after 100 balls in, you're straight over the top, and now all of a sudden it's not coming back like a pull left to the target. Now it's slicing. And you don't know how this creeped in. And meanwhile, it's just the basic thing of allowing, the brain to feel, comfortable with whatever it is. And alignment for me is one of those things, and also with the grip. But alignment to me is so important.
Sure.
At the moment you miss out on that, there's going to be compensating errors. And after a while of practicing that the wrong way, you screwed, because you got to somehow get back on track here. The eyes are exactly the same. So if you look at things and you keep on giving the brain the wrong information, at some point everything is just going to be left lip, right lip when you read greens, or not seeing the ball right where it sits in the rough, or judging distance from the ball and to the hole. Looking at the hole, judging distance, long distance putts or chip shots. You need to get the right information to the brain, to obviously put that into a field, to hit the field shot. But if you don't do that, just imagine you're seeing the wrong distance, or you're not looking at the line correctly. After a while, it's like aiming 20 yards right of target, coming straight over the top and wondering, why am I keep slicing the ball, or I'm not consistent, not getting the ball on target. And that's exactly the same for me. So it's like you say, it's just give the right information.
What it does, it creates a domino effect, because once you have incorrect information and you make a decision, that decision affects the outcome. And if you try to compensate, not necessarily with getting new information, but if you make adjustments based on the result, sometimes it's not going to be the right, because you don't have the accurate information. So it's kind of like, if you have a business, you have to gather, as a CEO, as the owner of a business, you have to gather certain information to make an informed decision. And if some of that information is good, but other information is not, then you're not really getting a true accurate picture. And that's really what you're, in a layman's term, you're trying to say is with your product, is that it helps to give you the information that you're going to need, that your eyes can take in more effectively, to help you make it. And that doesn't mean you're going to swing the club any better, but it's going to help give you the accurate data, if you will, or the accurate information that you need to make a better decision. And once you're able to do that, then the other sort of follows suit. But if you're making bad choices because of misinformation or disinformation, then it creates a negative domino effect, and ultimately you end up, making adjustments elsewhere, thinking you have to make it up. I want to get to this because we're getting close to having to wind up here in a few minutes, but I want to bring in this part of the discussion, which I found very interesting. He's one of my favorite golfers. Of course, I'm talking about another fellow South African, that's Ernie Els. I understand that he is also come into Jondo family, if you will. He's a 4-time major champion and a Hall of Famer. So you guys have to be pretty excited about having him and his endorsement with that. Tell us how that came about. How did you guys manage to get involved with Ernie?
So end of last year at the SAS Championships in Greensboro, North Carolina, I walked up to him in one of the events there, greeted him. I've obviously known him from South Africa and playing on tour, he asked me, what am I doing? And I said, well, it's sunglasses business and this and that. And he said, okay, let me have a look. And he put it on and he goes, wow. And that's always the sort of response we get from people when they put it on, So he was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, it's HDR, everything lightens up. And he putted a bit, and then he played in the Pro-Am before the event, and he asked, can he take it out on the golf course? I said, yeah, of course. So he played a couple of holes with it, and he said, no, he's keeping that pair. He wants to play with it. And and then he said, listen, here's my number. Give me a call. So I sent my number to him. And in the tournament, he texted me and said, I want to see you in 2 weeks in my office in Jupiter. So my business partner, Johan, and I flew down to Jupiter and a meeting with him and all his managers. And he said, listen, he wants to play with these classes and represent them. And we were sort of keen and happy to have him on board. And first tournament he played in Hawaii, he won actually with him. And then, a month or two later, 2 months later, he said, listen, he wants to be part of the company and help us. So it's the three of us. So it's Ernie, myself, and Johan Liebenberg. So, and he's just been amazing with us, and Ernie is a difficult customer. He's like you say, 4-time major winner, Hall of Famer. He's just a legend. And whatever he found on an early stage or age in his career that works for him, he sticks with that. And why I say it's a difficult customer, he does what works for him. So he's very finicky about using anything. If it's a different ball, different shaft, different putter, doesn't matter. He really works what works well for him. He plays with that. And for him, like to your point earlier, for him, and it's amazing when you get time to spend with a legend like this, it's amazing what a big role confidence plays in their game. So if he's not 100% confident with a glove, ball, putter, the caddy on the bag, where he stays, what he eats, the routine, everything, if he's not comfortable, they just feel they can't perform or can't win. And at that level, it's obviously all about, winning. And even on the Champions Tour, those guys are unbelievably good. It was, my kids always say, in a couple of years, are you going to play on the Seniors Tour? Are you going to try and, and I walked a couple of holes and then watched the US Open at Congressional, and it was like, no, that's, they might be old or older, but they're freaking good. It's unbelievable how good these guys are. So so for Ernie to have him on board, being such a legend of the game, obviously, and him really liking the technology, it's amazing. And he told us straight up, he said, listen, he's going to play with it and he's going to try and get used to it. He was sponsored by another company before. He could never play with it. It was a polarized lens, though. But he said, listen, even if it takes me a year or 2 years to get used to it, I want to be part of this journey of the Jondo journey in the USA. And he's going to try and make it work. And you'll see him play with it, practice, and then when it gets down into the stretch, he'll take them off. And I said, listen, and please don't put it on and off because that will create more eye fatigue.
Right.
So he is just a very difficult customer in that sense. It's not just put glasses on and carry on.
Right.
At that level, these guys are so finicky with what works and all about confidence. Every single thing, even the shirt's got to sit perfect and nothing must bother them. So, but it's great to have someone like Ernie on board and his whole team. So we're very excited with that partnership.
Well, and it's got to be good to have somebody like him. I mean, I know there's a lot of great professionals out there, but somebody that is a little more finicky when it comes to having the right equipment, having the right things at their fingertips, uh, is a good thing. It certainly presents a challenge for you guys. Obviously, you've got to, but it's not just about making him happy. It's about making him realize that there is a big benefit. It's not just a style or, a look. It's about these will perform. And these guys are all about performance. That's why they use the equipment they use. That's why they look the way they do. It's about performance. How am I going to perform on the golf course? Because that's their job. I mean, they might have businesses on the side. They might endorse different products and things like that, but that's their job. As long as they're still playing, that is their job. So if something is not going to contribute to the success on the golf course, they don't want any part of it. Now, some guys will do it and they'll take a few dollars here and there and they'll do it and it's adding to their capital. But the real pros are the ones that will thumb their nose up if it's not going to help them. Hey, I don't care how much you're paying me. I don't want, I'm not going to, put that in my bag, or I'm not going to carry that, or I'm not going to wear that. So, I mean, that's really a testament to his professionalism, and that's the kind of guy you want to have on part of the team. So I think that's a great mix. And I've always loved Ernie. I think I've only ever seen him once live years ago. And I've watched him many times, of course, on TV, but yeah, he's just, I mean, they call him the Big Easy for a reason. He just has that kind of personality, but he's also a tough and shrewd businessman. He's smart. And that's the kind of guy you want to have in your fold. So kudos to you for working that partnership out.
Thank you.
So for those that want to get more information and want to really do a deep dive into the product, where can they go? What's the website they can go to?
Yeah, the best would be to go to our website. It's www.jondosport, JONDO Sport, SPORT.com. And everything is on there. So all the technology, the different models. There's an app where you can do a virtual try on, see what sort of style will fit you best. It's a small range. It's all about, for us, performance. So even the frames are designed for golf. So it's not a big range. We believe in something small that will fit 85% of the market out there. And a small range, that we don't want to confuse people. Our focus is more on the lens, because, as I said earlier, we still manufacture in a lab, so it's not mass produced. So the quality, everything sits in that lens. And so pick a frame that sort of works for you on the website. The lenses are all exactly the same. Our one and only lens. That's in all the frames, but on our website you'll get it there.
Perfect. So jondosport.com is where you want to go and investigate their product. I want to thank you, Morne, for coming on and joining me this evening. It's been an interesting discussion to learn about your product, and I'm definitely going to check it out. I have one question for you I want to ask, and I think I know the answer, but I just want to get this, if this is something that's available now, or if this may be something if you're dealing with people that maybe have a prescription for eyewear, is that something that at this present time that you're able to accommodate with that, or is that something that may happen down the road? And what I mean, because obviously I wear glasses to read, and I mean, I need to wear them to play golf, unfortunately. So is that something that is currently available, or is that something that may come in the mix at some point down the road?
Yes, we have that available.
Okay.
Our lens, again, it's a hardened lens. It's thick, so we do the prescription on that same lens.
Perfect.
So we just need your script, so your latest script from your optometrist. We get it made up in our lab in South Africa, and once it's ready, we send it to you. So no, we can do that for you.
Big thumbs up for that. I'm glad to hear that. That was going to be my last question. I wanted to make sure, because I need my my prescription. But
send us your script. We'll sort you out.
I'll definitely do that. Well, Morne, thank you very much. I really appreciate coming on. I've learned a lot about your company and obviously you personally as well, and I appreciate that. If you want to hang tight for just a second, I'm going to wrap up and and then we'll get ready to close off. I want to thank also all of my other guests on the show tonight. I want to thank the guys on the Coaches Corner panel a little bit earlier, John Hughes and Jon Decker. Thanks, guys, for always doing a great job. And also a very good friend, Bob Forman, our golf fitness professional, for coming on and giving us some great tips for the wrist and forearms to get those in shape for still a few more months left in this golf season here in the United States. So get out there and do some of the exercise that Bob talked about. And then, of course, my very special featured guest of the evening, Morne Botha. Again, if you want to go to their website to learn a little bit more about their eyewear, jondosport.com is the website to go. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. I appreciate you tuning into the show, and I will see you next week right here on Golf Talk Live. God bless everybody.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this week's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. We'd like to thank this week's Coaches Corner panel, and a special thank you to tonight's guest. Remember to join Ted every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Golf Talk Live. And be sure to follow Ted on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're interested in being a guest on Golf Talk Live, send Ted an email at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.